Hello, everyone. We're going to be continuing our discussion on React.js. This is Practical IT, and welcome back again. So for this one, we're going to be just discussing on the utilization of the refs in React. And in general, what we're going to be just using refs is when we want to have the direct access to the DOM elements. So this could be whenever you are trying to access, whether it is an input box or a button or a div or a paragraph, anything that you name it. And if you want to have like a direct access and not as a part of like component, then in that case, we're going to take a look on refs. You might not use them like a lot, but there might be times that you would want to use those and have an access to the native element of the DOM. And in that case, that's where we're going to be just using refs. So this is like the previous application that we were working with the outline, with the layout, sorry. And then we're going to continue to work on that. So for that, just as a part of like showing like what the refs are and how we're going to be just using, I'm going to go ahead and create a new component. In this case, I'm going to be just using like ref example .js, and I'm going to use a class component for this one, and ref example extends react dot component. And before I forgot that, I'm going to use export default and ref example. And of course, we need to import that. Import React from React. All right. And for this, we're going to use constructor. And for this, we might have like the props. And for super, that's for the upstairs. And we're going to use props. And now we're going to be just creating our ref. You can give it like any name as you want, and then React.createRef. So this would be the reference that we're going to be just using for the DOM element that we're going to be just interested. And the way how we're going to pass that one is going to be just to use as a part of the attribute for the element that we're interested in. So for this, I'm going to have a very simple one, and we're going to have like render. And for that, then we have like a return. And here we're going to, let's have like a very simple input box where text equals type equals text, and ref, this is where we're going to be just using it. And we're going to be just pointing that to the reference that we are having. And pretty much that's going to be just what we're going to be just doing. So anytime that you are interested to get an access to the input, which is directly referenced on the DOM, then the way how you're going to access it is going to be just through the ref that we have created over here. Maybe for making it clear, let me have it as input, and over here as well, input. So that's not going to be just ambiguous. Let's do a very simple exercise on this one. Let me have handle click. Yeah. And for this, let's say whenever I'm clicking on this one, which is on click, I'm going to assign it to this that handle click. So when I am clicking on this one, I want to access, or it could be anything else. Let's say if we are having a button or anything, whenever that one is handled, then if I am going to be just accessing the input box, then it's going to be just, let's say, through the handle click. And then in there, I'm going to have like an access to the current element that I'm going to be just working with. And I can have all the values that I'm interested in that through the current property. So what I'm going to do is here, if I'm going to say this that ref, actually we have called it like input, that current, that's going to be the current value. You can think of it as the DOM element when you are accessing it through when you are accessing by selecting it through like the DOM, the document object model. So this is the same as saying document dot get element by ID, or query selector, and like anything that we're going to be just selecting that one, and it's going to give us like an object, right, like from the document. So this part is pretty much like that one. So from here I can, for example, say style, and if I say color, let's say background color is good enough, just so that we can see it, background color. And if I say blue, and what would happen is whenever I'm clicking on this one, then the color, the background color of the input is going to be just changing into a background color of like a blue. By the way, it doesn't have to be like the same input box that we have to do. If I'm having a button, then if I'm clicking on a button, and then the inside that event handler, if I want to access like the input, the one that I'm having over here, then the procedure is going to be just pretty much the same. All right. So with that, let's go here and actually let's do the input box to be added in the app, because we haven't added it yet. So let's do it over here. Let's add it like at the end. Call, and I'm going to have ref example, and we need to import that. Import ref example from ref example. Right. Then if we are having here, now we are having that one. So if I'm clicking on this one, then I'm expecting it to change. Oh, because yeah, we haven't bind that one. That's the problem. So we need to bind this thing, because this one is like an older one. So there are two ways to do that. Either you can do this that handle click equals this that handle click dot bind, and this should work. And this time, like, it's going to just access that. Now you can see what is going on. Like we have like an access of the input box, which is directly available on the DOM. And we're going to be just using the basic DOM manipulations on this one, because the part that we are getting with this that input that current is equivalent to that of like the document that get element by ID. And from there, any of like the APIs that we use on the object or the instance that we get from the document is going to be just applicable over here. All right. So with this, we can utilize any part that we have in the application. So if I'm interested to have like additional more, then of course for each one we're going to be just adding yet one more. Let's say if I am adding another div, let's say a div. This is the additional one, and it's complaining because we don't have like the, I can conclude it with that, because we have to have it like in one. That's why it was complaining. So if I'm having this one, and then if I want to refer it through like the DOM kind of implementation, and of course I'm going to use like pretty much the same thing, I need to have ref equals this that div, and of course we're going to have like the same kind of implementation over here, and over here we're going to have like the div, and the once we have that one, and then applicable to that of like the div, and we can do pretty much whatever we want over here. So if we do like the same thing, maybe like a little bit different, this div and current, and maybe if we want to change like the inner HTML, and change it through ref, then if I go there and then click on that, then you can see like the lower part is also changed through ref, and that's because I have an access to the DOM element through the ref. All right, so this is how we're going to be just using the ref, and it's going to be just valuable in some cases, but since we have an access directly with this one, if we don't have to do that, then we might be refraining from the usage of like the ref. But if there is this or that reason, we might be using the ref, and then we have to have like an access directly to the DOM element. then the way to go would be just to use ref, which is going to be just in such a way. All right, so with that, we're going to conclude this video with this one, and I'm going to see you like on the next videos, which is like the upcoming parts of the React implementation. If you find it interesting on this one, just don't forget to hit the like button. And then if you haven't done that one yet, go ahead and just subscribe, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm going to see you on the next video.